Community service, build a better city. And you'll see that in our second segment when we talk about Leadership Toledo and getting youth involved in community service. And you'll also see it in our first segment this morning, which has to do with firefighters and their physical abilities and the threats they face on the job and the way we honor firefighters, ironically enough, in a physical way. Let's talk with our first two guests about that. Firefighter Brian Hackenberg with the Perkins Fire Department is joining us today. A veteran of triathlons and Ironman competitions, we'll talk about that. And Lieutenant Eric Yankoff advocates firefighter fitness for a good reason. Firefighters need physical stamina for the jobs you perform each and every day, don't they, Lieutenant?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Physical fitness is one of the most important things to effectively be able to do our jobs in the fire ground. I mean, you think about the jobs that we're doing, running chainsaws, using axes, dragging heavy hose lines, rescuing people from high heat conditions. Those are very strenuous tasks on their own. And then when you couple into it the fact that we're wearing 45 to 50 pounds of extra gear, all of which is very thermo-insulated. It's similar to wearing a large snowsuit, if you will, so all the heat that your body's producing is pretty much radiated back into you. It's very exhausting and very easy to be overcome if you're not in peak physical condition.
And Brian, I would imagine winter or summer, extreme cold, extreme heat, it drains your stamina, and you have to be in terrific shape.
Exactly. The fact of the matter is firefighting is a young man's profession, and I have found that the older we get, the more difficult this job does become. So making sure you're getting your 30 to 60 minutes of exercise a day, getting your health screenings done, getting your physicals done every year, just to make sure you are exactly the perfect condition that you need to be in.
Now, when you go through your training classes, how much of it is it physical, and how much of it is just learning the mechanics of the job? But as you're saying, the physical is probably the most important.
Right. It's pretty much built in. You know, to be able to perform the mechanics of the job, you have to be in physically good shape. There's not much that we do that's not physically demanding. So when you're learning the techniques and the mechanics, you're working on that physical aspect too. Mm-hmm. Where we tend to get into problems is you go through your firefighter training when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, and you keep yourself in top physical condition so you can get a great job at a good department. And then 10 or 15 years goes by, and you don't really have the same incentives that you used to have. You really have to keep pushing yourself to remain more physically active, to stay physically fit.
Do you find that there are a lot of guys who would make great firefighters, but they just can't pass that physical threshold?
Yeah, absolutely. There's guys that mentally have it and guys that really want to be able to do it. But for some reasons, either they don't have the strength or they don't have the cardiovascular endurance. Sometimes they're not capable of doing it.
And how much does the equipment play a factor in this? Is equipment getting better, lighter, smaller so that you can perform your jobs better, faster, without as much taxing to the system?
To a point, but the newer equipment today allows us to get into the buildings, I would say deeper, hotter. So we are actually putting ourselves in more stressful situations now.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that. For instance, let's take the winter time. You know, we walk to our cars just as regular citizens, and we get winded because we're holding our breath. It's so cold. You have to exert yourself. And tell me what that's like, carrying all that gear in that heated environment with ice around and the physical nature of your job.
You know, it's just the unknown factor. You should always be ready for it. You go from one extreme to the other, coming out when it's 0 degrees after fighting a fire, sweating. You come out when it's 0 and you start getting hypothermia setting in.
Do you get sick frequently? And I don't mean physically, I mean, do you catch colds and those sorts of ailments?
I'd say probably less than the rest of the population would, because we run ambulance along with the fire that we provide, the fire service that we provide. Mm-hmm. So we're generally exposed to a lot of things, which I think helps build our immune system. I'm not sure that we get sick anymore from the fires and the extreme heat and cold.
How do you keep in shape?
I'm a big proponent of resistance-based training. I know Brian's real big into endurance-based training, cardiovascular exercise, mm-hmm. biking, swimming, running. Mm-hmm. I prefer high-intensity weight-based training.
So you lift the weights, you bike, swim, and run.
Right, and it's a good combination because we have guys on our department who really want the help. So for strength, they come to him. If they want to get some endurance going, they come to me. We set up a nice program for them, and it really gets the guys motivated to working out.
Tell me about this turnout challenge. Why is this important?
Well, let me tell you one thing. When a firefighter's passes away in line of duty, who does it affect? It affects everyone. I can't think of one person that was not affected by the tragedy here in Toledo. So when someone says, why do you do this? I say, for everyone.
Because it's their family naturally, but it's
Right.
also the city and the
the
citizens, because we have lost a public
Exactly.
servant that we now
Exactly.
have to train and replace.
And that's my whole premise, because this affects every single person, not just family, co-workers, but a community. And we've seen that here in Toledo.
And of course, we lost Jamie Dickman and Steve Machinsky in the line of duty, but there are a lot of your brothers, Lieutenant, who die from heart attacks. Do they die on the job because of the exertion, the over physical exertion, or it's just because they've exert themselves so much on the job it weakens the heart?
Generally, we lose about 100 firefighters every year to line of duty deaths. That's death on a fire scene. And unfortunately, the trend has been that the 100 firefighters total per year has stayed constant, but the number of firefighters out of that we've lost to cardiac-related heart attacks and things like that has seemed to increase over the last 30 to 40 years, whereas before it used to be the majority would be to traumatic injuries, burns, collapses, things like that. Normally, we're at about 50-50 right now, 50% dying of heart attacks while on scene, and the other 50% dying traumatic injuries.
Which is why you're such an advocate for firefighters being in tip-top shape.
Absolutely.
Brian, you do this, as we said, swimming, running, biking. You're a triathlete, you're a marathon man, an Iron Man, and you have created a team. Tell me about this, the first due race team that you've created.
Yes, it's a way to try to get as many firefighters involved in my local area as possible. But we have also reached this out to police officers as well, because in the end, we are all working together for one common goal, and that's just to be fit for duty. I believe I got a dozen police and firefighters from our area. We race together, promote a healthy lifestyle in the fire service and in law enforcement.
Well, you must be a leader, because you go full gear. You wear, what, 40 to 50 pounds worth of gear when
Yes.
you do some of these runs.
Yes, everybody asks me all the time. I said, it's exactly 42 pounds.
And how far do you run?
It depends. I did mostly 5Ks, 26-mile marathons. I do some triathlons with it.
It must be inspirational, though, for the men around you to see you do this.
It definitely gets a lot of firemen and police officers interested and involved. And in the end, that's exactly what I want.
And it raises the level of competition, because if Brian can do it, Eric, you have to do it, and everybody else needs to do it, right?
Yeah.
Such is life in the fire service.
Yes.
We're as competitive as a group as there is. And the physical fitness trend, at least at our department, has definitely peaked since Brian started with his turnout challenges.
You knew we mentioned Jamie Dickman. You both knew and worked with him, Perkins Fire Department. He was there before he moved to Toledo. Tell us a little about him. And he worked with you a lot.
Yes, he did. He was a huge advocate of the Turnout Challenge campaign that I started. He was there from the very beginning. He running the races with me. He looked like he had the greatest time of anybody. Running the races, high-fiving the kids, smiling. You couldn't ask for a better person.
So when the Glass City Marathon steps off next Sunday, I guess it is, Jamie will be in your thoughts as you participate in that.
Yes, he will be. I'll be running in my full gear, 42 pounds of my gear. SCBA air pack, helmet, and everything.
I was just going to say, go through the list of what you're going to be carrying.
Sure. Helmet,
Helmet.
the bunker coat, the bunker pants. I'll have my SCBA on.
Are you going to wear the boots?
I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna
Wear sneakers?
I'm gonna wear running shoes. Okay.
I think you're allowed. If you had to wear the boots, though, are we talking 50 pounds?
It would be about 50 pounds easily.
If you've never been to a fire department and never seen the equipment hanging on a hook, you need to do that. You need to go there and just pick up these items of clothing that they wear and lug around, and feel how heavy that is. What will you do, Lieutenant? Are you going to take part in this as well?
Oh, I'm not much of a distance runner. I leave that up to firefighter Hackenberg and his first
Well, we
Duke
will
crew.
be Saturday. He'll be helping out with.
Yes, I'm going to help with the fundraiser. I'm going to help
Yes.
with the fundraiser aspect of it, but I'm not going to take part in the
Tell me
marathon.
about the fundraiser, what you're raising money for, where it goes.
We are getting 10,000 black wristbands donated that say Toledo Strong from the Toledo Roadrunners, who host the Toledo Marathon.
They're a good group. They do a lot of good work.
I couldn't ask for a better group of supporters. Every racer is going to be given one black wristband, and then we're going to have 3,000 of them on that Saturday of the expo to hand out for donations.
Well, if we go out to the Glass City Marathon next Sunday and we see you all geared up, we have no excuse to not beat you.
That's true.
Because we're not going to be wearing as
I'll
much
be
as
going. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to be going for time.
Really? So this is serious to you?
Yes, it is.
And what was your best time?
I have done 5Ks in this gear. My record is 22 minutes and 20 seconds.
This is we're making light of this, but it is an important topic. You more than police, because police can drive around in cruisers. You have to carry the heavy gear into action, and you need to be in tip-top physical shape. And you're here to challenge your brothers. And I guess that's part of what you're doing in the
Yes.
marathon next week.
Because in the end, it helps everybody. Like I said, not one person could not be affected by it.
And if it's running, swimming, biking, or lifting weights, it all helps.
Right,
It all helps a lot.
Lieutenant Eric Yankoff, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you being out
Thank
here.
you very much.
Brian Hackenberg, firefighter with the Perkins Fire Department. Actually, you're both with Perkins. Thanks so much for joining us, and I know you're going to inspire people to get out to the Glass City Marathon in particular, but you're doing this all over the country as well.
Exactly.
Particularly you, Brian.
All over.
Good luck to you. It's
Thanks
too
a
bad we
lot.
didn't have video of that. Thank you for joining us.
problem.
Coming up next, Leadership Toledo, getting young people involved, getting them more involved in our city to make this an even better city. We'll do that on the other side of this break on Roundtable.